Hey everybody, Rich here, Rich's Custom Marine and Auto. Today we're going to be doing rear brakes on this 2008 Ford Edge. These come in all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive. This version of the car is the front-wheel drive. So I have not done an all-wheel drive before, so I don't know if they're the same as what we're going to show you today. So, I know some of you guys were concerned in a video last year that I didn't have a jack stand, because you didn't see it, but there's my jack stand. Let me get this thing set up on the tripod and we'll get going. Alright, so first we got to get these caliper bolts loose. Those are 14 millimeter. Alright, so we got the back wheel off. I look in there. I don't know if it's really going to show, but brake pads don't look too bad. We're going to measure the thickness of this rotor. Now I've got this gauge here that you use. Do this one-handed. I'm going to go in right here where the heat shield has an opening. Alright, so the way this works is once you get this pulled down tight against the disc, you tighten this thumb wheel. That way, because this actually has a lip on it, that way you can pull this back to get it off of there. But then it resets because this never moves. So minimum spec, according to AllData, is 16 millimeters. And let's see if I can get this to show on here. This one is showing that it's right at 17. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to get my dial indicator and we're going to check runout, which is to see how much that is warped, if it's warped at all. So with this being 1 millimeter above the minimum, I can tell you right now, the place that turns discs for me, they won't even turn them, because 1 millimeter is not going to clean this up, so we're going to have to replace these. But I'll show you guys how to do runout anyways, so we can see, you can see how that works. Okay, you can see I went to the control arm there. You could probably get away with going on the caliper. The caliper does move some because they're supposed to float on there. But let's see if we can get a good view here, and let's see what it does. Maybe half a thousandths at most, so that's really good. So let me do these checks on the other side off camera, and then we'll move on from there. So guys, after checking the driver's side rear, the thickness is about 16.5 millimeters. The runout is 1,000th, which is right at the limit as per AllData. So they're not going to turn those. There's no way that you can get the rotor true in 0.5 millimeter. So also you got to figure when you're doing a job like this for yourself, or whether you're a shop doing it for a customer, but especially in the case of a customer, if you put this thing back together, put it on the road, it would be fine. It's absolutely safe to drive the car. But here in 6 months, when the car needs rear brakes and it starts to have a little bit of a shudder or something because the brake disc is more warped, the customer is going to come back at you, or maybe not even bring it back to you, because they'll be like, I just brought it to you not too long ago and you didn't fix it. So In this case, we're going to replace the rotors. We're also going to replace the pads. They're down 50% or so, but it's best to have the new pads break in with the new rotors. So we'll get those on order, and we'll go through that process when they come in. Now I've already done the other side, and we're gonna have to replace the parking brake shoe, because when I pulled the disc off the other side, had the adjuster backed all the way off, and part of the shoe material was floating around inside of there. It had broken off. I'm assuming this driver doesn't use the parking brake very much, so it was probably a 2008 factory original brake shoe, which would explain it coming apart with all the years of heat cycles and vibration and stuff like that. Make sure you don't hang your caliper off the hose, and on these it sets up there real nice like that. And then since we're replacing the disc also, I'll just go ahead and put a screwdriver in there. You obviously wouldn't want to do that if you weren't replacing the disc, because you could scratch it and mar it, and you don't want to do that. So check my slide pins. Slide pins actually work very good. So we've got new shims in the kit that we'll put on there once we get that bracket off of there. So new ones of these little guys. So now the bolts on the back there, and the bolts on the back here to get the caliper bracket off, right there and down there, those are 15mm headed bolts, and those bolts get torqued to 66 foot-pounds. So after being stuck on there a bunch of years, they're usually stuck pretty good. Now they do have that hole there that does line up with this bolt. The problem I had on the other side, which that seems real convenient, if you've got the right amount of extension to get in right here, that'll help you out. But if you try and get in here with like a big torque wrench or something, the coil spring's in the way, and it doesn't really work out that great. Alright, so that's that. We'll go ahead and pop these shims out. You want to make sure and take a wire brush and clean these slots out really good so there's no debris in there behind the new shims that go in there. So for now, we'll just set that aside, and we're going to work on getting this disc off of here. Now the other side was pretty darn stuck. One method I use is I'll take an old pad, put the pad material against the disc, and then take a breaker bar and go in between the ear that mounted this guy and just kind of pull on that. Turn it about half a turn. All right. Still turns nice and easy. Take a quick look in here. I'm sure the adjuster is backed all the way off like the other side was. Yep, backed all the way off, so we can't even back that off. So I'll show you a method here that, again, you'll only want to use if you're replacing your disc. Get you a shop hammer. This is a 2-pound shop sledge. Give that a couple whacks. Turn it half turn. And then I'm going to go off camera because the tripod's in my way, and we'll get this sucker off of there. Alright, finally got it to pop. And that one doesn't have a ledge in it either. So this one actually looks good and stayed all together, but you always replace things in pairs per axle. So we're going to go ahead and change this. So now what we want to do is pop these out. These things are just a big spring. So I just take a pry bar and do that, and I can grab the other side and do the same thing. Now on the bottom, there's a little deal like this, and that's just a spring clip that what it does, of course here's the new one, it just grabs this edge and holds it in. So there is a little coil spring on there that we'll have to disconnect. So that's that. These new ones are from O'Reilly. The holes in them are kind of painted, so you just got to clean them out with something real quick. But, and you can see there, they are the same. So I'll take the little coil spring out. And then put it up here in the new one. Kind of surprised that it didn't come with new coil springs, but that's fine. So that's got that. At this point, I'm going to click the camera off and blow all of this out with compressed air and get everything cleaned up so we can put it all back together. Got everything all cleaned up. I wanted to show you guys the clip on the bottom. So that's a 5/16 or 8mm head. Either one will fit it. So put the camera up on the tripod, and I'll get that thing switched out so we can put this back together. Alright, got that swapped out. Let's go ahead and install our new shoe. You gotta make sure to tip it down so you get it started on that clip. And it's probably easier right now to go ahead and get that spring started. Kind of loud in the background. We're having a good rainstorm come through here in the Pacific Northwest. Yep, and that thing came off the clip on the bottom. And I push one side in like that and hold it, and then I'll just take my pry bar carefully. You just got to make sure it stays clipped in on the bottom, and ours is. Alright, so that looks pretty centered. Adjuster is still back all the way off, so that's great. So let me go grab the disc and wipe it down with some brake clean, and we'll move on. Now we're ready to put our disc on. What I usually do is take the back side of my hammer and make sure that thing is seated. You could put washers on here with a couple of lug nuts. I've done that as well. That works fine too. Now we're going to put the shims in the caliper bracket. So these guys, these are where your pad runs. Right? You guys saw this when it came apart, or if you're doing it, but so they'll go in there like so. Now these tabs right here, they bend a little bit when you put them in place to kind of hold everything. So I get it started like that, and then I just push down and in. You want to make sure you get them as flat as possible. Of course, the pads will push them in place too. And then we'll just do the same thing on the other side. It's always a good idea to replace the shims, guys, because what will happen sometimes is these really aren't too bad, but they start to get a groove in them, and they can actually make your pads hang up and then not let the caliper retract properly, and you can run into overheated brakes and warped discs. So I've taken these bolts, cleaned them all up with a wire brush and a drill. I've got my blue Loctite here that I like to use. It just makes sure that nothing comes loose. A little blue Loctite on the bottom one. Okay, then those get torqued to 66 foot-pounds. Alright, so with that set, we need to back off the piston in the caliper. We need to push that back. So let me go grab a wrench that'll fit this bleeder fitting and a piece of hose in a container, and I'll show you guys the proper way to do that. So here's our setup. I've used the old pad just to be able to press the piston back in, and I broke this loose already. So you open your drain, your bleeder line just a little bit, and then you just slowly start compressing that piston. And I don't know if it's showing on camera, but we're getting fluid coming out. Now the main reason you want to do this way is because a lot of times the impurities in brake fluid come from the caliper. That's where most of your brake wear is. So this will push any impurities out and prevents them from making their way back to the master cylinder and possibly clogging ABS ports and other things that could go wrong. The other reason is if the brake fluid at the master cylinder is topped off and you do this, you'll push fluid out the top and then have a big mess. And brake fluid eats paint, so that's a bad deal. Alright, so that's got the piston pushed all the way back. We can take this stuff out. Put the dust cap back on. The bleeder screw. Make sure that's tight. Now we can set that aside again. Did get just a little bit of brake fluid where the pad goes. Soak that up and then spray it with some brake clean. And we've got the little dust cover for the parking brake shoe adjustment that we can put back in. Got our new pads. Okay, so that's got the pads in there. That all looks good. Press those pins in, and now we're ready to go ahead and put the caliper back on. I'm going to preload my bolts here with a little bit of Loctite. You want to make sure you have this washer looking flange facing the right way. So down in there you can see it sits on a ledge. So I've seen before where they come into the shop and you can actually see that washer there. This has had brakes put on it and they didn't make sure that was lined up and it just bends it. Alright, so those are torqued to 19 foot-pounds. Alright, so at this point we're ready to put the wheel back on and we can go do the bedding in procedure for the brakes. Alright, so once you got your wheel on there and it's back on the ground with a little bit of torque on it, You want to torque your lug nuts to 135 Newton meters, which is about 99.5 foot-pounds. So we're going to go with 100. So hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for following along. Hopefully this will help somebody out there. Pretty standard procedures. Most of that carries over for just about all disc brakes out there. A lot of them are very, very similar to what we did here. And then of course you add in the park and brake shoe, and that's a common style nowadays too. I know my Dodge 1500 is very similar to that. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe to help the channel if you would. Like the video as well. Leave any comments or suggestions down there. That'd be great. Or if you've got other experiences or whatever, share them with us. Share it with the community. I've activated the Super Thanks feature. If that's something you want to do to help us out, to help us grow. If not, that's fine too. Subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, that all, it helps too. So we appreciate it. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.